Welcome back, everybody. It's the Betting Pros College Football Preview Show. I'm your host, Scott Bogman. Follow me on the Twitter at Bogman Sports. I am joined, as always, by Thor Nystrom at ThorKU on the Twitter, and Mike Farrell at MFarrell Sports, 2 R's, 2 L's in there. And gentlemen, we are going to be talking about the bowls from the 30th through the 1st, so only a couple days, but we do have 9 bowls to get to. But before we dive in, Thor, the most recent week and the bowls that have happened, what stood out to you the most?
Well, I enjoyed Coastal Carolina upsetting San Jose State. They had a good performance there. I enjoyed Air Force and Troy Calhoun, as always, holding serve in bowl season. They held off James Madison there like that. And then earlier today, as we're recording, Minnesota Golden Gophers, Darius Taylor came back and ran wild, ran for over 200 yards in the Quick Lane Bowl over Bowling Green. Now we're going to be getting into the major bowls in this episode. Some of these games have less opt-outs or opt-outs that haven't occurred yet. And then we're going to get into the college football playoff games where they have very little opt-outs, certainly ones that don't matter. So those are the funner games to handicap, certainly talk about. Excited to do that.
I'm excited to talk about some of those big bowls, obviously, here. Mike, when you look at what has happened over the last week or so, what stood out to you among the bowl games?
Shout out to Coach Golish, Coach Braun. It really stood out to me. So, well, we've got, Jed Fish inherited a bad team, 1-11 to 5-7, and now he's going to be in one of the bowls we're talking about coming up, 9-3. And these guys, inherited horrible football teams, and Golish winning a bowl game after, 1-11 season last year. And Braun inheriting that mess at Northwestern after 1-11 last year, and beating Kyle Whittingham in a bowl. I mean, just really great coaching jobs that are kind of overlooked. There's a lot of attention, being put on 1-11 football team in the state of Colorado, going 4-8 this year. And not enough attention being paid to these guys. So congrats to them. That's kind of what stood out to me. Just miraculous turnarounds.
All right. Well, before we dive into the next batch of bowls, and like we said, there are the big ones in here, I got to ask you guys, have you checked out the all-new Betting Pros iOS app yet? We've given the app a fresh makeover to create a better overall experience for you. New features include the community section. You can connect with top-rated bettors on hot streaks, and betting experts. We have a following feed, view a feed of bets from everyone you follow, and get instant notifications when new bets are placed. Bet tracking, enjoy improved live tracking of your bets across your sports books to help you monitor your performance. Prop bet hit rates, sort out our prop bet cheat sheet by over percentage, under percentage for the last 15 games to be on the right side of the recent trends. And to take advantage of these features and more, download the Betting Pros app by visiting bettingpros.com/apps. That's bettingpros.com/apps, or search Betting Pros in the App Store. So let's start out on December 30th. We go to the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. It's number 11, Ole Miss versus number 10, Penn State. The line is Penn State by 3.5. 48.5 is the total. And Thor, I got to tell you, tickets in cash are just itsy bitsy, teeny tiny, slightly on the side of Mississippi and the under. So this seems, from the public betting side, it's going to be a very close game. Is that how you see it, or do you have a good lean one way or the other? I'm
pretty close to the margins too, as far as where my number is. I have Penn State minus 3.3. Live is it's 4 right now. Right. So yeah. I'm pretty close there. I would, like the public, have a slight lean to, thusly towards Ole Miss in this one. Penn State, the main opt-outs on their side, Chop Robinson, their stud edge rusher, who's going to go in the first round. He has confirmed that he will not play in this game. That obviously takes Chomp out of their pass rushing in this game. The other one that you're going to have to keep an eye on, Penn State stud left tackle Olu Fashanu has confirmed he's going to the NFL draft, but he had a weird declaration where he didn't want to address whether he was going to play in the game or not. And the way he put it in his statement, he said something to the effect of that he was excited to spend time with his teammates and coaches at this game. So like, it depends on how
He's gonna that sounds like a dude that's gonna be on the sideline wearing a
he's not
hoodie.
playing.
Yeah.
That's what it
No,
sounds like to me
no
too.
way.
I mean, it's not, a declarative, but that's,
Sure.
that's also how I would read that as well. Obviously, that would be a big opt out as well. On the Ole Miss side, that really the only one you're looking at right now, Cedric Johnson, their edge rusher, decent pass rusher, doesn't give you as much in the run game, but they've gotten confirmation that Jackson Dart is going to start, is going to play. He's coming back next year. Obviously, Judkins, the stud running back, is going to be playing because he's a true sophomore. He's going to be back next year. Ole Miss has built some really big momentum for next year. As Farrell could tell you, they are dominating in the portal this year. Since this is a betting show, I'm going to encourage everyone out there, if you have a little lunch money, if you can dig some pocket change out of your couch tonight, buy an Ole Miss 2024, well, I guess it'd be 2025 national championship ticket. Because that team is going to be insane next year. The roster that they're building with the guys they have back and then the portal class they're building. My lean in this game, like I said, is Ole Miss. I lean against the public, though, in the total. I actually lean towards the over in this one. Penn State, they have a tough time moving the ball on teams that play really, really good defense. Ole Miss doesn't have a great one. So I think Penn State will be able to move the ball okay here. I also think Ole Miss is going to be able to move the ball certainly on Penn. Penn State's got a good defense, but Ole Miss puts the pressure on you with the tempo. Penn State has the good run defense, but nobody shuts down Judkins. And then, Dart's going to be able to get the things off the play action in the RPO game. I think they're going to be able to chip away there. With this total under 50, I think this one gets over 50. And again, I think Ole Miss keeps this one close. This game's closer to a coin flip for me. So Ole Miss in the over for me.
Mike, do you have the same thoughts there, or are you on maybe the Penn State side? I did see your face when Thor said, go buy a 2025 national champs for Ole Miss ticket. It was one of those right there. But they are doing great, aren't they?
I mean, you could buy a playoff, ticket if you want. The national championship.
Get on the lane train with me, Mike.
No, not yet. I mean, the guy's got to win real big games first, and that doesn't happen overnight. So, and speaking of, not winning big games, James Franklin, so this is a battle of dudes who just really struggle.
Please, I hope this ties. That would be the funniest thing in the world. Oh my Lord.
So, a lot of people think Manny Diaz being gone is going to impact the defense, and they're not going to play as well, blah, blah, blah. I just don't believe in this Penn State offense. So I'm leaning under, but I'm also leaning Ole Miss. They've struggled getting the ball downfield, very conservative play calling. Wide receivers have been bad all season long. Not that Ole Miss has a tremendous defense, but they're good enough, I think, to keep this in check. And Ole Miss is going to run the football. And I think they're going to be effective running the football. Penn State put up some gaudy defensive numbers, but they did a lot of it against really bad Big Ten football teams. So I'm going to take Ole Miss. I would lean under as well. I would not buy a national championship ticket. That's like buying a national championship ticket for James Franklin. Lane Kiffin hasn't beaten anybody of value. I think he's 1-20 against teams that have finished with 9 or more wins. And that goes back to USC. The dude can't beat anybody big. Until he does, I'm not doing national championship, but I will do playoffs.
Yeah,
12 teams.
Yeah, 12 teams. Yeah, probably way worse odds this year, but still a pretty good buy. I like that one. Let's go to the Music City Bowl in Nashville. That is Auburn as a 6.5 point favorite over Maryland. 46.5 is the total in this game. Tickets and cash are a little more convincing towards Auburn and the under in this game. Thor, is that how you see it, or do you have a different pull?
Yeah, so this one, the handicap on this one changed when Talia Tagovailoa left, and he's got a weird deal going on. Was out of eligibility. Now he wants the NCAA to grant him another season of eligibility. Good luck with that, Talia. But, for this game, like I said, it changes it. This line went from Auburn -2.5 to Auburn -6 in 20 minutes of real time after Talia Tagovailoa opted out of this game. I mean, an enormous shift. I'm lucky enough to be holding an Auburn -2.5 ticket. I'm not going to be more involved than that. I will say, though, my line on this game is Auburn -7.4. So with it at 6.5, I suppose I would be advocating right now for an Auburn play. You've seen Auburn, or I'm sorry, you've seen Maryland without Talia before, and Talia is not, he's no grade shakes, but you drop down to Billy Edwards. They say they're going to platoon the Billy Edwards kid with a freshman. They have this Cam Edge kid. They want to get a look at him, so he's going to be in for some series as well. Those guys next summer are going to be competing with MJ Morris, the NC State transfer coming in. They want to get a look at both of them, and then they're going to be competing and whatnot. Here's where the rubber meets the road here. Beyond that, you have the depreciation of the Maryland offense. But in addition to that, the Maryland defensive strength this fall was decidedly their pass defense. Maryland's pass defense, 32nd success rate, 52nd in explosion. The Maryland rushing defense, 82nd in success rate. That's really the only thing that Auburn's offense is good at. Auburn can't throw, but they can run. And if you can't stop them from running, that's how Auburn scores. Maryland is not going to be able to stop them running. That's where they're going to get their points. And I just find it hard, like the idea that Maryland's going to return fire here with Billy Edwards, Billy the Kid, and then the Cam Edge kid. I don't see it happening. I'm seeing more like a 10-point Auburn win here.
Mike, are you with the same thought process there? Auburn's just going to run it up and down the field?
Yeah, I think they're going to have trouble stopping the Auburn run. I don't think Auburn's going to throw that much, and they're just going to sort of impose their will. Loxley's a good coach. He's done a solid job. Auburn can do his run. So this one seems pretty easy. I think Auburn.
And one other thing, Bogman, that I'll say, Hugh Freeze, 6-1 straight up and 6-1 against the spread in bowl games in his previous stops. He's one of the most profitable coaches we have in the postseason.
Gets him ready to play. So, yeah, a lot of criticism on Hugh Freeze, but he gets him ready to play. Let's go to the Hangover Bowl or the Orange Bowl here in Miami. It's number 6. Georgia as a 14.5-point favorite against number 5, Florida State. 44.5 is the total in this game. I mean, tickets, cash, everything is on UGA and the under. I think that's probably the way I'd see it as well, Thor. Any difference in your take there?
No. No. So I have a Georgia -14 ticket. It's up to 17 or 17.5, depending where you're looking. I would tell you there is still value at Georgia at that number. My line on this game right now is Georgia -20.6. And we'll see if Georgia has any opt-outs that would bring it down just a little bit for me. But this thing is grisly. So let's get into it right now. Georgia really, to this moment in time when we're recording here on Tuesday night, they don't really have any opt-outs that matter officially. They have one linebacker that started earlier in the season who didn't play the last 4 games because of injury that's in the transfer portal, but he doesn't matter because they've been playing without him. They have guys that could. Right? Brock Bowers could. Lad McConkey could. Tate Rutledge, Amarius Mims could. Cedric Van Pran, another offense. They could. Stackhouse on the defensive line could. Lassiter and Bullard in the defensive backfield. They could. We'll have to see in the lead up to the game. But those guys, as of yet have not said that they're not going to play in the game. Florida State, oh man, it's brutal. Tate Rodemaker just opted out. So they're going to be starting the kid that we've seen against Louisville, the freshman.
Probably better than Rodemaker still.
Yeah, Brock Glenn. And in the Louisville game, you'll recall the only way they could generate offense in that game, it was doing the Wildcat stuff with Benson and then a little bit with Toa Philly. Mm-hmm. Well, Benson's out in this game as well. So it's just going to be the Toa Philly show there. The wide receivers, the true freshman ain't going to have anyone to throw to. Johnny Wilson's out. Keon Coleman's out. Jakeem Bell is out. The other big tight end, Marquiston Douglas is out. They have a couple of different offensive linemen out. The defensive front was just blown up. Malcolm Ray out, Fabian Levitt out, Joshua Farmer out. So that's all their defensive tackles that played. Then the 2 edge guys, Jared Verse and Patrick Payton, they're both out. One of the linebackers out. They have defensive backs out. I mean, it would have been easier for me just to say who has not opted out on the Florida State side. And by the way, their fan base is talking about how they want to boycott this game as well. They don't want to be in this game. Georgia,
Yeah.
at least, they want to, more or less. They wanted to be in the playoff, but this game is Georgia is going to drop the hammer here. This is Joaquin Phoenix going out in Gladiator, putting the thumb down. This is Georgia all the way. I expect Georgia to win this game by more than 3 touchdowns.
Even though, Joaquin Phoenix dies at the end of that scene right there. But I got you, Thor.
I still haven't seen that movie. Thanks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks for the spoiler, Bogman.
Well, it's only 15 years old. So that movie could probably have a driver's license. Might not even be old enough to drink now. But that's all right, Farrell. You'll see it someday.
Someday.
What are your thoughts on the Peach Bowl? I mean, obviously, like Thor said, it seems like neither team is going to want to be there. Maybe effort will be low, but it seems like at least Georgia has some horses staying, and Florida State seems to have nobody staying. And the fans don't want to go. It's just bad.
They're going to win just by default. I mean, just throwing the football out there. They got better players. Whether they care or not, it doesn't matter. I mean, Florida State is scout team almost now. It's bad. And the narrative is going to be this. They're going to lose by 30. I mean, it's going to be a blowout. And then everybody's going to say, we told you Florida State doesn't belong. And then the Florida State fans who are turned into a pretty whiny group. I mean, they got screwed. I'll admit it. I'm with you. You got screwed. But
hold on though. But how long? But how long is the whining period? Like, you got to give them time to whine. It's over.
No, it's over because it's daily. I mean, it's just constant daily. Like if you whined a day and took a day off from whining, or whined maybe, once in the morning, once at night, but constant everything that's said. I mean, everything Kirk Herbstreit tweets, you got to jump in there about his freaking dog, Ben, and you got to jump in there and say you ruined college football, and they're selling clown shirts with their, it's just, so they're going to say, well, if we were in the playoff, everybody wouldn't have opted out. Our defense would have been full strength. Our defense would keep us in the game. Rodemaker is amazing, this, that, and the other. They're just whiny excuses at this point. I know Norvell's telling his team, listen, you got to go out there. You got to give it your best. You got to keep this game close. You got to win this football game. And then we can claim, if we win this game, we can claim a national championship. Or if we keep it close, we could say, hey, we would have hung with Michigan. But that's not going to happen. Neither of those things are going to happen. They're going to get drilled. This is pretty easy money. It went up 3 points from Rodemaker going out from 14.5 to 17.5. If you got it early, which I did, that's great. It's going to continue to rise, I think. It's going to get up to potentially 19.5, which is for an Orange Bowl just unbelievable. But even at 19.5, and even at 20, there's value on Georgia. Take Georgia here and bet your.
And Bogman, Kirby Smart 7-3 against the spread in bowl games. Mike Norvell 0-5 against the spread in bowl games.
Ooh,
I think it's only going to continue on both ends of it.
Yeah, this one is looking like a bloodbath more and more. And, 3 points for Rodemaker. I mean, Glenn was bad, but Rodemaker wasn't good. I'm sure maybe a couple other opt-outs had to do with that as well.
The only passes Glenn completed were like 6'7" Johnny Wilson.
Yeah.
He's not there. It's just, they will not be able to. It's going to be embarrassing. I mean, the Louisville game was bad enough to watch. This is going to be worse. And to Kirby's credit, okay, he learned under Nick Saban. There's a Nick Saban mentality. We saw Bryce Young and Will Anderson play in a bowl game last year.
Jerry Jeudy played in one? Yeah, I remember a lot of the Bama guys have come back and played.
This is what Georgia's about. And so I don't think you're going to see any of these big-name guys opt out, even if they're risking their NFL future and all that stuff. It's culture. It's built from the ground up. Kirby's got it. Saban's got it. So I think you're going to see Kirby saying to those guys, listen, Bryce Young was number 1 pick last year. Will Anderson was number 3. They didn't opt out. What are you guys doing? I mean, Brock Bowers, you could go top 10, I know, but so there's a challenge to the Georgia team, and Kirby is the greatest coach ever, including Saban, at getting his team riled up about nothing. And here it is. This is what they're riled up about. They didn't make it in the playoff. They want to drill FSU to show that they didn't belong there, and they want to beat them so bad. Honestly, to sort of send shockwaves into the fact that, hey, maybe Texas shouldn't have been in there. Maybe even Washington undefeated. That's what they want to do. So they want to send a message. One side cares. The other
Agreed.
side doesn't. It's
Yeah.
going to be a rout.
Yeah, it's going to be ugly. The last game on the 30th, the Arizona Bowl in Tucson, Toledo versus Wyoming. Wyoming is a 3.5 point favorite. 45 is the total in this one. Tickets of cash way on Wyoming. But the over is leading in tickets and the under is leading in cash. So a little different there, Thor. How do you see this Arizona Bowl playing out?
I also really like Wyoming in this game. My line is Wyoming minus 4.9, but I think you can even bake in motivational factors and stuff like that and make an argument even stronger than that. Starting with the fact that this is Craig Bull's last game, win one for the Gipper in this one. Craig Bull also 4-0-1 against the spread last 5 bowl games. He's one of those moneymakers in the postseason. You know who's not? Jason Candle, a coach that I don't think is very good. He's 0-5. In his career in bowl games. Not only that, Toledo and Mr. Candle, he's going to have to make do without Daquan Finn, his star quarterback in this game. Daquan Finn already opted out to transfer down to Baylor. They also will have to do without their stud offensive guard, Vinny Scary, who is also going down to the state of Texas. He's going to Texas Tech. We're still waiting word on their stud cornerback, Quinyon Mitchell, who is pondering the NFL draft. He's going to be going to the NFL draft. It's just, is he going to play in this game? A lot of people think that he's going to opt out. The Mitchell kid only allowed 43.5% catch rate this past season, 14 passes defended, 51.1 NFL passer rating allowed on target. You lose him, that one would hurt. On the Wyoming side, only one starter that has opted out, Colby Taylor, a cornerback, but he missed the last 2 games of the regular season with an injury, so probably wasn't going to play in this one anyway. Outside of that, they're fully intact. This Wyoming team, again, they play hard in the postseason invariably anyway. And this being Bull's last game, I think they come out, give them great effort. Toledo never gives Candle good effort in Bull season. They always seem discombobulated. I think you're going to see a lot more of that, particularly without Finn here. I really like Wyoming in this game. I think they win by a touchdown or more.
Farrell, I think the key to Wyoming is that I don't bet on them. I think that's the key for them winning this game, because every time I bet on them, they drop it against the spread. It's just the way it goes for me recently here. But your thoughts on the Arizona Bowl? Are you on the Wyoming side as well?
Yeah, I'm taking Wyoming, mainly for, that's just, win one for the Gipper and all that stuff. But Finn's not playing. I mean, that's the guy who makes the offense go. And he's not playing. He's gone. And, there's a precipitous drop to the backup. I don't think they're going to be effective at all. I think Wyoming's going to win this football game. Kind of an up-and-down football team. We saw them beat Texas Tech earlier in the season and then, have some duds. But I think they'll be up for this one. They always play well in bowl games. They always have a chip on their shoulder for some reason. Toledo does not, as Thor mentioned, and without Finn.
All right. We're going to go to the games on the first, but before we do, if you want a chance to win a premium 1-year subscription to Betting Pros, your place to start betting smarter, not harder, you need to subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel right now. Comment below on this video, and that's it. We will be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure to turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when new episodes are up and to possibly claim your prize. Let's go to the first. We start with the Real Quest Bowl in Tampa, Florida. Wisconsin versus number 13 LSU. The line currently is LSU by 9.5. 55 is the total. Tickets, cash, everything, LSU and the over, Thor. Is that where you're at as well?
I like Wisconsin in this game.
Ooh.
Yeah, you lose Daniels in this one. It's such a big drop off. You got to remember, I've watched a lot of LSU football this year. LSU's defense is a friggin' travesty. It was so fun to watch them because the offense was so good, in large part because Jaden Daniels turned himself into what is going to become a consensus top 10 overall NFL draft pick in the spring here. But the defense is horrid. I mean, that's, and then they would do the shootout thing, whatever. Nussmeier is a solid backup quarterback. I'll give you that. But you go from the Heisman committee decided he was the most valuable player in college football. You go from that to just a solid backup. You're losing a lot, obviously. The other opt-out on LSU, they lost their starting cornerback, Sage Ryan. We're still waiting for official word from Malik Neighbors, though I will say he's been at bowl practice. He did miss one a couple days ago, though. I don't know if that's going to end up, we'll see on that. If Neighbors is out as well, that nicks him big as well. Brian Thomas, though, says he's going to play. I'm a big fan of Brian Thomas again.
He's so good. Didn't he lead the nation in touchdown reception?
Awesome. He's so good. Yeah. And he over 1,000 yards as well. I mean, Neighbors had over 1,500, but I mean, they're both studs. To me, Brian Thomas, it is not out there to suggest he is a first round guy, I mean, later on for him, but like stud as well. We'll have to see on those. Thomas going to play. Neighbors still up in the air. But either way, you take a huge jump out of the offense just with Daniels' thing. With Wisconsin, the big one is the running back room. Braylon Allen's going to the NFL draft. The other the top two backups, you have an injury with one of them. And then, actually, I'm sorry, the second and third guy are injured. We did get to see the fourth guy, this Cade Yakimelli guy, down the stretch. He's kind of interesting. He's a 6 foot, 213 pounder who came to school as a receiver, and they were using him in late November. He got 22 of his 33 touches in November. He's going to be the bell cow guy. He can catch the ball. He can do some things. Like I said, he got a little bit of experience. Wisconsin wasn't throwing the ball well anyway, like beforehand. The Longo thing, we're going to have to see about that. But anyone runs and throws to the degree they can on the LSU defense. It's horrid. So, I mean, Wisconsin going to be able to do, what they're able to do here. And then the other opt-outs to note, they lose their starting center. And then Wisconsin also loses a starting edge and a starting linebacker and a starting cornerback. When it came out in the wash for me, I got LSU minus 4.4. You might say that I'm overrating Jaden Daniels when I'm putting that together. I don't think so. To me,
how could you be overrating Jaden Daniels? I don't think so.
Exactly. You take the most valuable player in college football off that team, and you know that they have one of the 10 worst defenses in the FBS. To me, that is enormously problematic. I know that Wisconsin, it's no great shakes, but they can do some stuff, and it's a smart coaching staff that they're going to know how to attack that horrid defense. They're at least going to be able to stay on schedule. They're not going to do stupid stuff. They're not going to just give this thing to LSU, whatever. So for me, getting all those points, especially if you can get this thing at 10, that's where I'd wait for it. You say in the 9.5, I'd want that at 10. But if you can get 10, I'm taking that with Wisconsin.
Mike, are you on the same page here? And by the way, it was Brian Thomas with 15 led. Malik Neighbors had 14, so 29 touchdowns between those two guys. Incredible year offensively for LSU, but they lose their quarterback.
I'm on the over, just because I think, Wisconsin's not a great offense, but they'll be able to put up points because LSU's defense is so bad. And I still think, Jaden Daniels made that offense go. Nussmeier's solid. He's a big drop-off, but they've still got a lot of the horses that can make plays. I'm not sure if Neighbors is going to play or not. That's a big deal. But to me, this is still going to be sort of a shootout because LSU can't stop anybody. And what are they going to do if they can't stop anybody? Even a four-string running back is going to be able to run on them. They're going to air it out. And they only have one recourse in this football game is to score more points than their opponent, and that's been their entire season. Wisconsin, the Longo thing, it's going to work out, I think, eventually. This was a transition year, and a lot of people expected, instant results. Not the case. But I think they're starting to come together a little bit. The key here is the defense of LSU is so bad, they're going to have to put up points because they're going to give up points. So take the over on this one. I don't like the side at all.
All right, let's go to the Citrus Bowl. Number 17, Iowa versus number 21, Tennessee. Tennessee is a 7.5-point favorite. The total in this game, is this right, Thor? Is it really 36.5? Is that the correct total?
Yeah. That for an Iowa game, that's high.
Yeah, it is high. And guess what? Bettors are taking Iowa in the under. Not a shock. So, yeah, I know. Super, super strange. Thor, what do you think of this one? Is this Iowa in the under like the public says?
The market is correct. Yeah. If you can get more than a touchdown here, to me, that's an easy one. You take it is really hard to blow at Iowa. Two teams, I guess. They with Michigan and Penn State, right? Beat them by more than the only other team that beat them this year, it was the referees. in the Minnesota game. But I mean, outside of that, and and again, hard to beat them by margin. Tennessee, they're not in the phylum of Michigan or Penn State, and they have the decent defense. But Joe Milton is going to have a tough time with that Iowa defense. And that's an understatement, particularly because Joe Milton's not going to have Jalen Wright here. Tennessee did the 3-man running back rotation. Jalen Wright was by far the best of those 3 guys. So the other 2 are, they're going to get the more usage, it's going to go from 3 to 2 in this one, but you lose your best one going to the NFL draft in this one. Tennessee also lost Tyler Barron, their stud edge, to the transfer portal. And then they lost starting defensive back Tamarian McDonald. Iowa, they didn't lose anyone in the portal that mattered. They obviously had the season-ending injuries that did way earlier in the season that they become accustomed to. McNamara, Eric Hall, Lachey, Cooper DeJean, et cetera. But Tennessee had several as well. Javante, let's see, Deontay Thornton, Brew McCoy, Arian Carter, Keenan Peely, the Hayden kid at cornerback, et cetera, et cetera. I just think Iowa, they keep it close with everybody. Again, that is not way, way better than them. Tennessee is not way, way better than them. Joe Milton's going to struggle in this game. I think this thing ends up, typical Iowa game where it's ugly. It's a 3-4 point game where it becomes a coin flip late. I like the under. I'm taking the points with Iowa.
What do you think, Mike? Are you on Iowa as well?
I want to justify my employment by saying a lot of words, but I don't need to. Take the under. That's it.
Yeah,
I don't really need to say much more. I mean, it's cashed all season. Take the under.
Yeah, the point that Thor made is really, it's nobody blows out Iowa. It's only the super dominant teams. Tennessee is not there, especially with injuries and opt-outs. So take Iowa. I think,
and I believe in both those games that they lost, the under came in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. It's what Iowa does. So they play great defense and they don't
36
score.
Is way high for an Iowa game. I mean, it's almost like 63. You look at Washington, Texas, you see that number, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, these two teams get 36. I mean, I was taking Iowa 28. So 36, you give me 8 bonus points, I'm under.
Yeah, maybe if Jalen Hyatt and Hendon Hooker are coming back for Tennessee, I'd take the over, but that ain't happening. So, I'm with you guys. Let's go to the Fiesta Bowl in Glendale, Arizona, where the Cardinals play number 23 Liberty against number 8 Oregon. The line right now is Oregon by 17.5. The total is 67. Tickets on Oregon, cash on Liberty. Both on the over in this game. Thor, is there a good play in this game?
I like Liberty in this game. So first of all, they're going to have the motivation here. Typically, this team in the big dog role does, and they have the less opt-outs. As long as Salter's playing, right? Like to this point, we don't have the opt-outs for Liberty, and I don't think that we're going to have the big ones. The only one that we have so far that matters, Preston Hodge is starting cornerback for them. As long as they can avoid the opt-outs, of the key guys, and I'm particularly talking about Salter. But Oregon, Bucky Irving is out of this one. Kyrie Jackson, the starting cornerback. Jackson Powers Johnson off to the NFL draft, along with those guys, a stud center. And then they have some key injuries as well. And then we're waiting on news of their stud receiver, Troy Franklin, Taz Johnson, Johnny Cornelius, a stud right tackle, guys in the front, Brandon Dorlius, Jordan Birch. You're just waiting for some of these guys. And we know that multiple of those guys are going to opt out. Bo Nix is going to play in this game. But if they have multiple of the other guys opt out, you ding them even more. Right this second, my line on this game is Oregon minus 12.1. This thing's at 17. To me, objectively, it is inflated. And it's the team that doesn't really want to be here in Oregon playing the team that they want to be. Everyone wants to be Boise State. You want to be Boise State and you want to shock the world, right? And so I would expect Liberty to come out here. They're going to give the effort. That they can run the ball. Jamie Chadwell's offenses are extremely difficult for anybody to stop. They have the efficiency, and then they can give you the explosive element when you have to move the resources up to stop the run, because you have to at some point, right? It's just too hard. There's just too many guys that can run there, even for a good defense. And if Oregon has multiple guys that opt out on that defensive front, now they have backups come in there. It could start to get hairy for them up front there. I don't think this is going to be the blowout that other people do. Certainly that the market does with this line being set there. I'm going to take the points with Liberty. I also like the over. I think there's going to be points put on the board because I don't think Oregon's keeping Liberty off the scoreboard.
Mike, I mean, you were shaking your head. Were you moved? Were you swayed at all by what Thor just had to say, or is this Oregon in a stomping?
No. And I get that, the group of 5 representatives want it more. And last year, Tulane, USC, I mean, we could see that. The biggest thing to me, though, is Bo Nix is playing. And I know, he might be missing some of his top targets, but I also know there's a ton of depth on this football team. A bunch of young guys that are super talented, whether they're left over from the Cristobal era or Dan Lanning. The way he recruits, this is a very, very talented football team, top to bottom. Lanning is a Kirby guy. Not going to let these guys be lackadaisical. He's not going to let them sleepwalk through this. USC did last year, but Lincoln Riley couldn't motivate anybody to do anything. I think he's a fraud. Dan Lanning's not a fraud. I think Oregon's going to drill him. I think Liberty is a good football team, nice little story and all that stuff. I don't think they can be able to match up here. So I'm taking Oregon to win this by 20 to 24 points.
All right. Well, let's get into the big dogs here. We'll start with the first playoff game, number 4 Alabama versus number 1 Michigan. The line is 1.5. 45 is the total in this game. Tickets and cash on Bama and the under in this one. Who's going to move on to the Natty? Thor, is it going to be Bama or Michigan?
Thank God I finally don't have to talk about opt-outs in a game. I'll just quickly talk about just a couple injuries on both sides. Zach Zinter, the amazing guard on Michigan, is out for the year. Had the unfortunate season-ending injury against Ohio State. That's the one that matters on that side. With Alabama, they're going to be pretty close to full strength here because I think both Jace McClellan, you guys remember, missed the SEC title game with a foot injury. He's almost assuredly going to play in this game. And then Kool-Aid McKinstry, he's almost assuredly going to play as well. He had a minor concussion. He's had plenty of time to heal, and he's been at bowl practices as well. So, outside of Zinter, these teams are going to be at full strength here. I like Michigan in this game. Michigan was my title pick in the preseason. I've been steadfast in that. I think they are better than Alabama. You guys know that I think Alabama's a bit fraudulent too. So I don't think anyone out there that has listened to us this year is surprised by what I'm saying. My line on this game is Michigan minus 5.9. I realize that Alabama won a lot of fans there when they beat Georgia in the marketplace. A lot of people have shifted over there. I would caution people on a couple things. The way that you attack Alabama's defense, it's with deep, aggressive passing, number one, because Alabama's great with the passing efficiency. They struggle with the downfield passing. And then it's with the straightforward power run game. The meat and potatoes just go right at them and not the outside stuff that, the around the tackles and the misdirection stuff, the concepts that take a long time to develop because the speed, Alabama will wipe that stuff out. Georgia had one of the strangest offensive strategies that you'll see in that game where they were driving right into the wood chipper of what Alabama was good at after the first drive. The first drive, it was like, okay, they're doing what they should. And then after that, they were just doing the around the tackle stuff, the slow developing run concepts, and then they weren't throwing deep. And it's like, you can't move the ball in Alabama like this. Look in the friggin' metrics. Michigan, you go back to the game, not this year, but the one before in 2022, last game against Ohio State, when J.J. McCarthy hadn't been throwing downfield all year. He hadn't needed to. Then they play Ohio State. You guys remember he went bombs away against Ohio State, just stole their lunch money the entire game. They've been saving this thing. I think you're going to see J.J. McCarthy go bombs away here. I think you're going to see more of that playbook open up in this thing. And this isn't like a pie in the sky notion because we already have proof of concept of them doing this sort of thing. And the running game of Michigan, they could do those power concepts and go right at Alabama. I think Alabama is in trouble in this game. I think they were a smoke and mirrors team that was able to pull several games out of their you-know-what that they shouldn't have won. Auburn game, Tennessee game, at the very, Arkansas, South Florida to an extent. Michigan is a different animal. I think Michigan is coming here. But like I said, I think this game should be closer to 6. I really like Michigan in this game.
I mean, Mike, it makes sense to install a game plan like that too, because if you do move on, you're going to have to score against Texas or Washington, it seems like. So throw the ball downfield, and Texas has a weak secondary, so that's where you're going to want to attack them as well. So it makes sense to build this in bowl practices now and keep it for the Natty if they do make it. So are you with Thor? Are you on Bama or are you on Michigan as well? Or is this, hey, look, you let Bama in. This is what they do. They're not going to flinch. They've been here. What do you think?
So this is a tough one because I had picked Michigan to win the national championship at the beginning of the season. I thought their roster, top to bottom, the only question mark I had was the downfield wide receiver play. But defensively, they were a great offensive line, running backs, quarterback, everything was fine. And they've only played 2 good teams this season, but, they've won those football games. The problem I have here is I also learned something a long, long time ago, which is never bet against Nick Saban, ever. Just don't. So what do I do? Jim Harbaugh is a guy, he's a smart coach, he's a good coach, but last year his game plan against TCU was horrible. And we saw in the championship game exactly what you're supposed to do against TCU when Georgia just went straight at him and absolutely killed him. So game planning wise, he had a month to figure out if he can do it. He's horrible in bowl games. He's been to the playoff twice, and failed both times. What do I do here? So I'm going to go Bama. I don't think Bama is the better football team when you compare the rosters. I don't think they're the better football team. I think this just comes down to my faith in Nick Saban as a coach, as a guy who's going to prepare his team. I don't know. I mean, Harbaugh may come out and work at the intermediate passing game and run freaking sweeps. I don't know. He's kind of weird.
He's a weird
like
dude for sure.
So if he does the game plan, which is run the ball at them and play physical, which is what he wants to do all the time. Sometimes he outthinks himself. Oh, Alabama's going to think we're doing this, so let's do something different. No, do what you've been doing, what you're built to do, which is pound the ball at the middle, and then take your shots and play action downfield. He might not do that. I know Nick Saban's going to coach a good game. I know he's going to be prepared. He's not going to get out-coached, period. He may get out-rostered, but I know Jim Harbaugh could get out-coached here. So I'm going to go Bama. This is a tough
Farrell
one.
let the fear win.
Tough one, but
he let the fear win, and he's going with Bama.
Michigan could win by 1 point, and everything. Well, here's what Michigan could win by 1 point, and everything I said is
exactly.
Perfect. Right. They cover.
Michigan right. Mike is writing his fan fiction over there where both of his tickets hit. I like it. So I do the exact same thing. It's worth buying the lottery ticket just for the $5 to just imagine what you would do with the money, right? That's what that is. I love it. Let's go to the game that matters, of course, here, Thor, to me, mainly. The Sugar Bowl. It is in New Orleans, of course, as it always is. Number 3, Texas versus number 2, Washington. Texas is a 4-point favorite in this game. 63 is the total. Cash and tickets slightly on the Washington side, but heavy on the over. Everybody likes the over in this game. I think I like the over in this game. How do you not like the over in this game, Thor? You have to, right?
I like the over in this game.
Yeah.
The side of it, I go back and forth. So I lean Texas, but you also have to concede that Washington, their offense, it drives directly into, and you were alluding to this before, Bogman, right into what the weakness of Texas's defense is, which goes right back into why everyone loves the over this game. Washington's run defense stinks. And Texas has a really good rushing offense. I mean, certainly did when Brooks went down, or even before Brooks went down, but even after Brooks, Baxter coming in now, and then the 2 kids they have coming off the bench for Baxter, they have an explosive element as well. They're going to be able to run on Washington's putrid run defense. Washington, 121st in success rate, run defense, 124th opportunity rate, 99th power success rate, 126th stuff rate, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, they're just going to get stampeded there. Now, Texas, you flip the field. Texas shuts down every run game. So take the unders on Dylan Johnson. I already have. They were set too high. They've come down. They're still set too high because Texas just shuts the lights out there. The issue, though, is Washington can just eschew that and be like, that's fine. We're just going to throw every time, right? And they have all the weapons. McMillan's back now. So you have the whole crew. You got a Dunze. You got McMillan. Dunze's going to go in the top 10. McMillan's probably going to be a round 2 guy, and a sleeper that I really like, probably going to go lower than he should. Then you got Polk, who's awesome too. And then they got the 2 tight ends that mix and match in there. The weakness of the Texas defense, of course, Bogman, as you know, it's the pass defense. And particularly, they have a real issue getting ripped for the long ones, right? Like the success rate for the Texas pass defense, it's 24th. So they do a decent job with that. 97th in explosion, 120th in the air yards per pass, 119th in passing down marginal explosiveness, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is what Washington is going to attack. They are going to have success with it. Texas is going to attack the run defense of Washington. They're going to have success there. The over is the play here. I do lean Texas on the side, but the spread of this one is objectively correct. It's the great equalizer. I'm still going back and forth, like I said, on that. But the over, to me, I'm pretty confident in that one.
Yeah, I mean, Texas is going to have to get pressure on Penix fast. That's what it's going to have to be. And Penix 11th in pressure to sack rate in PFF stat this year. So, top 15 guy there. Farrell, what do you think here? Is this is Texas secondary going to be the thing that leads to this loss, or can they run the ball and keep the ball long enough to keep Washington frustrated on the sideline and maybe make some mistakes because they're not holding the ball long enough?
Yeah, I'm not going to take the side. I think Texas wins the football game, but, the side is just...
Could be a field goal, right?
Yeah, it's the over. I mean, it's definitely... Everything plays out here. I mean, if Texas is able to run the ball and Washington has a couple of attempts in the first quarter to run the ball and then they get stuffed if they don't do their homework and realize that they're going to have to throw every time, then they're going to start airing it out to try to come back. And this could be, a shootout. And I think Texas will, win by a score. I just don't know what that score is going to be. But I think you're going to see these teams, put up a lot of points on each other. So I can see why everybody's on the over. Some of these games, Washington, Oregon, I mean, the over was just an easy play. And this one looks easy, even if it's 63.5 or 63, whatever you get it at. So I'm going to go over on this as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have 4 or 5 wide receivers in this game drafted. So, yeah, there's going to be some points in it for sure. It's going to be a fun one. But that is going to wrap it up for us. So we have got probably Texas and Michigan and Bama all in there. The only team we're not taking is Washington. So I like that, boys. I appreciate that, but that'll wrap it up for us for this week. We'll, of course, be back next week to talk about the Natty. Obviously going to be a shorter show as well, since it's only one game versus the 9, 10, 12 that we've been covering here recently. So remember, you can follow us all on Twitter at Bogman Sports for myself, at ThorKU for Thor, and at M Farrell Sports for Mike. We will see you guys next week. Take it easy, everybody.